Hello, welcome to Speak Sex. I'm Eve Eurydice. I have a wonderful guest today. Martina is a gorgeous, young, glamorous Italian woman.
Right. More.
She's she's brilliant, she's creative, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's very liberated, and she is not a feminist.
And we're just talking about that. That's not really how it works usually.
So I want to talk about that first before we go into speaking sex. I want to talk about the difference between being liberated and not believing in feminism the way it presents itself these days.
It's not a very fluffing topic, but all right. No, we were just, my point is that I've never felt the need of looking for liberation. I've never felt constricted, although I certainly was. I come from a very traditional family. Everybody has been married to one another since forever. My uncles, to my aunts, my mom to my dad, my grandparents to my grandfathers to my grandmothers. And so it was never very challenging or the idea of a marriage in a traditional way. They had been struggling with that, and they were always helped themselves, if you know what I mean, the men and the women in the same ways. But they've always put family first, which for me is what a marriage is about. I don't think that a marriage is two spouses coming together every day, every night. For me, when I got married to my husband, is because the main reason is because, first of all, I loved him. I think he's a great, great, great man, and we share absolutely the same values, but also because I was looking to create a family with him, and he was already part of my family. That's why I married him, not to build a family with him, but because he already was. And my marriage is a very solid marriage, in my opinion. Obviously, it's not traditional, but because I am 42, we met when we were 19, and on December 10th, we celebrated 20 years of dating. So not marriage, we're going to celebrate 14 years in January. But this said, with the access that people have now, people our age that has been married, for as long as we have been married, I don't think it is even remotely rational to commit to the idea of being committed.
Yeah,
I think
monogamy. Spending all those years with just each other.
I mean, it's a nice thought that I encourage with everybody, at least at the beginning. Like, I'm not here not to say that, but I'm here to say that if you really believe that you are with someone for the right reason, so support, encouragement, the idea of being there for each other in the long run. Lovers come and go, but that doesn't change anything. In fact, I think that, and I've seen it with my family too. We are very, not my family, my personal family, my husband, my son, and I. I've seen it with my family in Italy. When nothing breaks it, it's a good marriage, is when things get
so when you do have an affair, or when you sleep with other people and yet the marriage survives, then it gets stronger. Because you realize that you're there for the right reasons.
I don't think that
it's not like this delusion that we have to own each other.
No. Right. I mean, my point is, if another woman comes into my marriage and breaks my marriage, the marriage was not solid to begin with. If, I mean, you cannot have steak every night. You know what I mean? After a while, everything gets old, everything gets difficult. The routine is a killer. And my husband and I are true to ourselves, but people change. We grow up, we become polluted. We're not the wide-eyed little kids that lived off love that we were 20 years ago. It gets tough. And if at home you don't have, and I'm not just talking about affairs, I am talking about everything. If you don't have tolerance, if you don't have, pick your battles, turn your head the other way a couple of times, you've got to do it. Or you are, at least also always speaking for myself, I could have not survived it. I would have been completely frustrated, the paladin of an idea that myself don't believe in. I would have been doing something for others rather than myself. And
right.
And the thing is that as long as my husband is fine, I am fine. I made myself happy because I made my family solid. I made it, my family is okay. There isn't anything that can come between, that can break it. And that took me a long, 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 long time. And lots of tryouts and lots of, trouble and, of course, heartbreaking and not heartbreaking and plotting and, a million different tricks. But now, a lot of my friends, a lot of people my age divorce or go through a crisis. Or for my husband and I, we're just starting. We went through that all. And now we are at a point where with our sometimes questionable, ways, we find each other in a very, very, very good place. And we are a family. We might not be a couple anymore, but we are a family. And for me, that's the most important thing. So I don't know if this is liberation, but I don't know the definition of liberation. Right now, these days, I feel that liberation has a lot of different connotations, and I don't... what means liberation for someone does not mean liberation to me. And my life doesn't feel liberated. I mean, I wasn't really going for that particular word. I was just going for happiness and structure and the ability of, calling my marriage, my family a home, like a solid
Well, I
home.
feel from the outside that you are a liberated modern woman because you are able, in a healthy, sane, non-psychotic way, to find new pleasure, to have a lover, temporary lover, who you're not gonna get emotionally attached to, who is not gonna be your main emotional source, but he can be a source of sexual pleasure, and that's something that in the past only men got to do, or mostly men got to do. In the past, husbands might have an affair.
Not true. Women have done it. I think women have done it from the beginning of times. They just were smarter and never got caught. That's why you only hear about men.
I don't know. Maybe.
Come on, of course.
There are little gossip stories in my family too, but nothing proven. For the men, it's proven. For the women, it's not.
Well, because men always need to have their ego glorified. So the more the women, the more men they were. Women are just women. They do it, they shut up, and then they get the other. I think the problem with me is that I cannot lie. I'm a terrible liar, and there was no way that I was going through all that trouble of hiding something from my husband. So it was like, you know what, let's do this. And it took a lot of tryouts, but now we're good. And I get emotionally attached to all my lovers because they fulfill a very specific need in my life, which is the need of romanticism, which I think, I think it fades in every couple inevitably. I wish it was not what I've seen, but in my personal experience, I see romance fading. Then more beautiful things take their place. I'm not saying that it is a tragedy and, a tunnel that, but So for me, my lovers are my romanticism. They're my hopeless love stories. They are my torment, my passion. They are, like the the swim in the ocean in the middle of the night. They are a joint 4 a.m. in the morning in a dingy apartment. You know, that's my lover.
Well, that's what makes for better sex. You need the romance. So
Yeah,
the
you need a
stakes
little
are
bit
high.
of
Yeah.
putridity
Yeah.
if we want to get dirty. But then I go home, for sure. But as long as they last, they are my emotional
Your romantic
outlet.
source, right.
Completely. That's why I don't have I don't have many, many lovers. And when I pick one, I like to keep it for a while. Because I'm not promiscuous. I've never been. And it's very difficult for me to go out and go home with a man. It happened only once in my life. And he stayed my lover for 3 years. So, also not very liberated because...
Oh, no, I think it's very liberated within the context of American Puritanism. And I do believe that Americans are, still Puritans compared to us Europeans in that way, that they're very inflexible and it's this way or, nothing else. They're very strict in their definitions of things, whether it's sexuality. For example, there is very little space for bisexual. Everybody has to choose and be like either straight or gay, and that's it.
In Italy too, though.
And also about monogamy and this idea of like love and romance and, marriage. They just have, a difficulty kind of leaving their Puritan past behind and finding flexibility and new, adaptability, stretching their definitions of things and making them more inclusive of all kinds of behavior. So how do you feel about your husband's lovers?
I feel that I'm okay. So sometimes I'm happier with them. Sometimes I'm less happy because the most important thing is that they care for him. That's my point. All right. So I don't want an asshole with my husband because I think my husband deserves someone who likes him for who he is. And so, we talked about it. My husband is not stupid. He's a very, very, very sharp man. He is very aware of start to finish everything that goes around him. In fact, he is a lot less emotional than I am. Well, I am particularly emotional, all right? And I do it for the romance. My husband does it for the sex. So we come from the two complete opposite spectrum of what a lover is for, which makes the dynamic really interesting. And also, I am a girl, so obviously I'm more understanding and I am more empathic. My husband is a real man, so is a little less than... So he can't really see things the way I see things. So he's always like, you should go out, you should do this, you should get blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I need. That's what he needs. So for a while it was kind of crazy because for this reason it was like a revolving door, and I don't think it was good for anybody. Not for him personally, but also not for me. And we are kind of like a package. I mean, sometimes we are less close than some other times. Right now we are particularly close because I live with him, because I'm redoing my apartment. When we don't live together, things are a little better. But yet, I wish for him to, I mean, it would be better if it wasn't that crazy. So right now it's not that crazy. Right now he found someone. He's happy.
Yes, they're stable.
He's much, much stable, and I know him very well, and he is amazing. I don't know if anybody heard that, but the
lover is, your husband's lover is he. Yeah.
But which maybe makes it easier for our situation, but I don't think so, regardless. Anyway. I mean, for the spousing, jealousy kind of situation.
All
I
right,
think
yeah,
it happens
because you
for
are the
everybody.
only woman, I guess.
Well, I'm the only woman because I'm smart. Because it's not that I found out later, you know.
Yeah.
But so I know what I wanted, and I set myself up in a situation where I could get what I want. But even for women married to straight men, your husband, this is like how I would have done it. And I did fall in love with Fabian. Like, it's not that.
Yes, I know.
So if it happened with a straight man, I would still really tried my best to create exactly the same situation that I am creating now. It's so important, and so for the children, for the future, for you know,
to give acceptance and compassion and space
and
for growth.
I mean, you know, this is my point. Do not look at what he does. Look at what you do. Don't think that that's the only thing that can make you happy.
Right.
Right?
Controlling your man.
You know?
Right.
It's
exactly.
not.
It doesn't. It doesn't make you happy. It drives you insane.
I mean, there's hundreds of men out there.
And you can never know what's in his head. It's just not possible. You can't control anybody.
You know? Just go a little, have a drink, and relax.
Yes,
and let him do the same. Don't think that if he does it, then he is an asshole. Do the same, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know.
I think that's beautiful, and I think it's evolved, and I think it is liberating, and I personally, celebrate it because it's not easy. You know, you are able to be conscious in your choices and make choices that are not like the blanket choice, you know, that we like see in the movies or whatever, wherever we get that idea of, we have this idea of like the norm, the majority, but it's really, there is a silent majority that no one talks about. And then there's the one that we get like in the movies or, whatever.
But
TV.
Also, it's very subject to criticism, my point of view, and I can see why. And I mean, I like to do things my way. My life is my life. I like to live it. I'm open to criticism. I know that people might think that a very wide range of things to say against the way I practice my marriage. But the point is, don't be selfish. Take care of one another and take care of yourself.
Right.
Happy husband, happy life. Not
and
just happy
try
life.
To be honest and try to be honest, to speak truth to each other.
If you're not honest in your home, where are you honest?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
A roof needs to be a solid
shelter. Be strong enough to speak your truth.
I mean, where did the love go? That's my point.
Exactly.
I mean, if you love each other enough to get married, you love each other enough to talk to one another.
To adjust.
Right,
exactly.
Because that's all about it, you know? I mean, we are just to ourselves, don't we?
Yes.
As time goes by, we're full of adjustment. And then one day you run 20 miles and you feel great. The next day you have to run 19. That's an adjustment. And then you have to dye your hair, and that's an adjustment. And then you have to change the size of your pants, or, you know, a bigger or a smaller, and then that's an adjustment. You adjust with yourself. Adjust with your other self, your husband.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about monogamy and not just about sex. I really feel that.
Exactly. It's love.
Yeah, it's love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing. Love has many ways, though, you know?
I agree. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is how it feels to be somewhat outside the range of that feminist Me Too, definition of the woman who like goes out there and works and, competes with a man. And I, for one, believe that feminism should be all-inclusive. So I want you to speak to that it should celebrate every choice that the woman makes that makes her happy, no matter what that is, that there is no, better choice or stronger choice, or that we're all in this together in the same way. So go ahead, please.
I am with you in the idea of feminism as a lack of judgment to people's choices. In fact, that would be a great movement, because there is a lot of judgment around, and it should not be. Also for bad things, like, there should be more tolerance, in my opinion, about what people say, how people think, and there is always that very judgment of the very last action. There is never why, though,
Like no big picture, right?
No big picture. There aren't any questions asked to the why of the action. There is always judgment to the action, which for me is really shallow, very narrow-minded, completely inaccurate, and incorrect to the, like, with the capital I. But anyway, the reason why I'm not a feminist is because I am feminine. And I think that this is very reducive, but it's just, what just came to my mind right now when I heard you talk about how a woman goes out there and competes with a man. I don't think women should compete with men. I think women should exploit as much as they can the fact that they're women. They should not try to be men in any way. So it is not a matter of a job, and equal pay is a different thing. So I think women and men should be paid equally, but I think feminism, equal rights, correct, equal pay, correct, but right now, which is what women used to
ask for, right,
and I support that, because they do the same amount of work. It doesn't mean that, because they're women, then they're less capable, or there are a job for men, there are a job for women. I would never do a series of jobs, but because I am, if I can do flower garlands all day, I'll be happy, I don't have any strive, so for me it's, a little difficult to understand how women wish to go out there and work, and be the boss, because I've never had it in me. But this fact that women and men are the same, I really do not agree. And I think that feminism promotes that right now. And I don't like it. I don't like the women don't shave. I think it is absolutely horrifying. I don't like that women are not the warmth, the pink in the house, the other side of the masculinity. I don't like the women are becoming so masculine. I think it is, first of all, I don't like the way they look, but that's just a personal opinion. But also, I think that they give up their very own power, which is being a woman, being the soft,
right,
being smell like roses, I don't know, like a massage,
being
like
what I call
a
it
seductress,
the sex, exactly, the sexual
like,
gender, or the maternal gender, all of that.
Comforting,
right,
and
yes,
there has to be that. And I think that's being lost in girls, which it's a shame, in my opinion, for them, not for me. I'm all right. You know me.
But
you know the way I look.
and I also, yes. But I feel, first of all, I remember this big thing that happened in Twitter a couple of years ago, because Hillary Clinton on her Twitter handle had said mother first. So it said mother, senator, State Department, Secretary of State, presidential candidate. So she said mother, wife, and then, senator, presidential candidate. And she was interviewed by a writer whom I know who is a feminist, and that was the first question. Why would you not put senator first or secretary of state first? And, then there was a big uproar that, Twitter, left Twitter, or feminist Twitter, went into an uproar, and she eventually apologized. And I feel, as a feminist, politically, I've been a feminist since I came to America at 15 and realized what it meant, because I felt so repressed at home. I belonged to my dad. I had his name. Everything I did spoke about my dad. I felt owned by him. But the point is, even though for me feminism was liberating when I first encountered it, I have worked hard. I've taught at the university. I've wrote books. I, worked for magazines. I've done a lot of, nonstop work, travel, whatever. Being a mother was thousands of times harder work than anything I've done. All of the other work I did for money put together doesn't count for a tenth of the work, the devotion, the selflessness that being a mother demanded. So, of course, you put it first. And it is the most important, achievement that a woman can do. Without the race ends. We don't socialize. We don't raise, beautiful souls.
Absolutely.
So, to me, the fact that motherhood gets discounted and people say, "Hi, what do you do?" and you're supposed to have something fancy to say, as if the fact that you're raising a child or children is not enough or is not important enough, that to me is offensive. And it's anti-feminist. Because we take away from us our main power, and we try to turn us all, as you said, into fake men, like fake males, and speak as if we are men, kind of like hide this huge part of who we are, women, mothers, homemakers, the fire.
Things only women can be.
Exactly.
Why would you reject what only you can do? Only you can be. You give life. You raised it. Let him go out and deal with people. Make him happy when he comes home. I don't understand how that is humiliating for a woman. I really don't know. It doesn't register in me how that diminishes the brain, the smart, the culture. I swear to you, it's beyond me understanding how a woman does not feel like a woman doing that. It's beyond.
Or putting together a beautiful dinner party, which you can do. Or, making
it's not just that.
A meal. But all of that is actually work. And it takes study. You can't just from zero get there. You have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to present things, where to put them, where to find them, how to put them together.
Look, I make an example. It's not just that, because I think that a very a sophisticated woman lawyer can put together a dinner party easy. But this is the point. So you both, husband and wife, both kick-ass jobs, CEO, super mega, come home at night, both with your shit that you have to share because you worked hard all day. So the husband sits there while the woman empowers him, okay? Saying, today I did this and that, and blah, 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 and what did you do? I did this and this and this. Same level. How can the man be attracted to that? Maybe he's attracted to that, Maybe he feels better about his manhood, to be with a woman that overpowers him. Maybe makes him feel like a real man. I'm not sure. But as a woman, if I had that job, if I came home to my super successful husband and told him that, baby, I did it. Today, I am more successful than you. And he high-five me and we kiss. I would lose, it wouldn't turn me on that much. I want a man, I'm submissive. I want a man who dominates me. I don't want a man that is my little pet man. Mm-hmm. That's not who I am. Mm-hmm. So maybe it works for them, but it doesn't work for me. And I think that's the reason why I don't relate to feminism or the version of feminism that is happening these days.
Precisely. that should be feminist. You can still count as a feminist and be this way.
But I promise you, again, pay rights, sure, but that I do not understand. I can't relate to that. I don't even like to be on top. So now we talk about sex. It's true. It turns me off. I don't like it. I don't like it. So starting from there, going back to the man that comes home, I don't want to go home to a man that... my husband cooks, but he is the man of the house. I don't want to go home and be the man of the house. I want to be the woman. I want to be, put on a pedestal, fed,
treasured,
and brushed, and I take care of them. And no one else can do it but me.
That's right.
All right? I don't want my man to do it. I want to do it. That's my femininity. And no one is going to take it away from me.
Yeah, you're the nurturer.
Absolutely. A man can be nurturing too. And my husband is very nurturing. In fact, I think he's a better father. I mean, he's a better parent because we have a son. And I feel that he can relate to a boy. My son is very macho, like very boy.
I was just going to ask you about that, so I'm glad that you...
very. And he has very... he has a moment of tenderness with me that are a lot tender, but he kind of like... then he kicks me, like he's in that stage. So I feel that with his dad, he likes... he stopped showering with me when he was really tiny. He wants to shower with his dad, he gets dressed with his dad. He's like more and fabulous.
Gender conscious.
Fantastic with him. Fantastic. They are a pair.
Yeah,
so
he's his little man.
He's his little man. But then they come home to me. The two of them are the two of them. But then they have me. I'm the safety net. I am the home. I am
the goddess.
The goddess. Maybe. Oh, I like that word. So,
do you think that there is a difference or a change in the way that our children are raised right now? That's the other thing that I was going to ask you based on your son. And it's a question on two different topics. One is their understanding of gender, because of course the way that society and school presents it has changed a lot. There is like trans and all these other possibilities of gender, and then also the influence that the internet and that whole social media world, which we didn't have, has on them as they grow up. Because your son is how old now?
9.
Right.
My son is obviously not on social media. And he watches it, he's very controlled on TV too, except for Fortnite. He watches the YouTube, he watches Fortnite tutorials, which is really what bothers me. So I don't think that...
he's not on his cell phone or the iPad?
No. So, absolutely. He's not. He has an Instagram page, but we bought it for him. We signed it for him. But he doesn't use it. He's not on Facebook, and he's off social media. He knows he's aware of YouTube. He would like to make videos. He's interested in that, but it's more a game for him than anything that springs from a different knowledge.
And do you guys, as his parents, plan to continue that until middle school, or?
Well, I think so. I don't want to set it in stone because life is moving fast these days outside of our home, and I don't want my son to be left behind. So obviously, if there is something, I would like to keep him as child as long as possible, and so then how, I'm not sure. But again, if obviously he's already more developed than when I was 9, So if I have to continue adjusting because life is adjusting around me, then fine, I'll figure it out as I go, like every parent, I think. But
so boys and girls.
Think that I think that his gender awareness, like you called it, is purely personal. It's him. He knows he's a boy because he saw me naked, he saw he naked, and and he's not right now in school. They're like, girls, ew. So there isn't really. It's very traditional, boy.
He's a traditional boy, so
Very
he doesn't.
Traditional.
So
if traditional is the right word.
Right. So does he use words like pretty and beautiful and?
When he wants something,
good.
You're so beautiful, mommy. He's really like that. No, he's a good boy. He's just a normal kid. I don't really. For me, he's the most amazing child, and I could give you 100 examples of his fantastic brilliancy in every absolutely way, but. He's just, boxing, soccer, video games, dudes. That's Brando. So I never had to face any controversy or any,
out of the box
issues
behavior,
or anything like that as it goes now. And I think that is, in general, though, a difference between how children are raised now, but I'm not sure if it is a cultural difference because I was raised in Italy and I was in Italy until I was 19. So I'm not sure if it has always been like this in the States or not, but I feel that children are on a loose leash, We were so strictly raised at dinner and functions
yes.
and behavior and sleep time, the whole thing. Like it never happened that you could have a sandwich and in front of the TV. So I'm not sure if the fact that children can choose their sexuality right now, let's start from there, is something that has always happened in the States or not. I have the feeling it didn't. I have the feeling that now we are on a thunderous slope when we're going down like an avalanche. I think that we are really kind of burning the steps.
Well, it's also a kind of a medical issue because, the medical establishment has agreed to, give hormones to really young children who present themselves or who speak in a certain way.
Yeah, but I wonder, it feels like an epidemic.
Right, it feels like...
They are suddenly very many. So what happened? Did they put something in the water? Or have they always been very many and we have never noticed? Or now they're kind of not encouraged, but...
well, they have been given the words. The word trans or the idea that you could be referred as they just didn't exist before. So when we make new words and we create new terminology and we give it to impressionable young minds who are looking for a way to define themselves and also to define their difference, and they don't know how they're different because they're just becoming, we give them these words, they'll use them. I don't know. It's hard to know what things mean because they're just, words. There's sounds and signs. And can these kids use the right words for how they feel? I think it's impossible to be sure. So I personally don't think that they should be medicated at that young age, especially not in a way that cannot be reversed.
I think they should not be medicated anyway, like Adderall, like all that, without going into hormones. But because we are talking about hormones specifically, I also don't think that because it is a medication contingent to a sexuality, I don't think that anybody can really establish their sexuality until they're sexually active.
Exactly, before they're sexual. Right.
So,
and even so, it takes quite a while to be clear. Because we change, as we were saying in the beginning. We keep changing and evolving.
We keep changing and evolving.
And yeah.
Look, I don't know about you. I have always been clear in my sexuality. I've always known what I liked. Maybe these children don't. Maybe, they would like to try both, whatever. But not when they're 9. Not when they're 6. Not because one day is like, oh, that's a pretty eyeshadow, I want to try it. Hormones.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I think so.
I mean, yeah. First they were tomboys. If every girl tomboy was given hormones, they would have ruined them.
Yeah. Well, it's this idea again, and I do think it comes from a Puritanism, this idea that everything has to be homogenized in a, predefined category, which is just not how human beings express themselves, because we're in infinite variety. So, and I feel that is true also about sexuality, in the sense that I think that, well, in ancient Greece and Rome, people didn't have to say, I am gay or I am straight. They could have sex with men, younger men, and have wives, have families. It wasn't kind of like a binary choice. And I think that especially since AIDS, because so many, gay men died, that was a time when America forced everyone to make a choice. So if you sleep with the same gender, that's it. You cannot go back and forth. You have to pick a side. And people, in a sense, were socially forced to make a choice that was not necessarily natural, but they felt that there was no space for them to be both, that they would lose their place in one of their communities if they would, double in both. So, bisexuality just disappeared.
And this is when they actually got to a point where they could choose, because for the longest time they could not choose, because they were stigmatized, like completely, condemned by. It's true, they get, but not children.
Yeah.
I mean, this they thing, that gender fluidity that goes on, that I don't know, like, I don't want to raise my kid as a boy or as a girl, I want him to choose kind of situation. I don't understand it. I mean, we're born a certain way. So if it would be, I am a 20 years old man, lesbian. No, I am a 20 years old lesbian born a man. So you're a man, you were born a man, you like women, but you feel like a woman, you did your journey, and now you are what you are. Fine. But not that you start with it. Just give yourself some time. And I think that parents should lead the children by the hand. I feel that they try to do that. I only feel that probably they're doing it in a little bit of a very aggressive way. Very aggressive. Yeah.
Well, also the prefrontal lobe doesn't fully develop until 25 or 26.
The dick doesn't develop. I mean,
so
it doesn't.
Not 20. It should be 26 when you're fully formed mentally, physically, in every way. You stop growing. Then you're equipped to make that choice. They have to allow them to kind of, find out who they are, because it takes a long time. It takes us a long time, as we were saying originally, within the given options to find the one that makes sense for us the most. And it's always an approximation.
Yeah, and in fact, what I just think after this conversation that was very enlightening, that they're all talking about letting the children choose, but in reality, the parents are choosing, because they are putting them on hormones. So they are creating their sexuality, not the child. The child might have some questions, and the parents decide.
That's right.
This is right. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's the parents that saying that they are allowing the children to choose instead of the one choosing.
Yeah, because parents always use their children as extensions of themselves. They use the children to
That's very true.
fulfill their own dreams. And
that's very true. In fact, I forced Brando to play piano forever. He never did. It's like hormones, maybe. Oh God, I'm a terrible mother.
I did it too with my daughter.
So bad.
I insisted on the ballet. Because I gave it up when I went on point. She never even, she was so terrible at it. They would go, on the theater, because they performed at that big theater in motion. So they would all stand there, the little ones, doing their ballet, and she would stop in front of the huge audience and stare at the other kids dancing. It was so obvious she did not belong there.
Oh my God. It's too funny.
But again, it's all these little, these like gender roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't she like twirl like a ballerina instead of like staring at everybody? Why can't he play the piano? Like
No, I was
Glenn
like,
Gould?
at least the piano is gender neutral.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So, at least, no, but I did it for me. In fact, it lasted like 2 years, and he was like, I'm not sitting. Like, I just want to go kick a ball. And then I tried to play ball with him, and he's like, no, Mom. Like, no. So yeah, no. Anyway, feminism and Me Too. Can we talk about that? Because that's how we started, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can conclude that.
Okay, we conclude with saying that because feminism is so much talking about women taking care of themselves, then there is Me Too, where people take care of each other, and a woman cannot stand up for herself. Punch the man, don't sit on the couch, keep your legs closed, because it's not always the man. I feel that, first of all, I feel the Me Too is that's very disrespectful against the real victims of rape. All right? So women that arrive to the hospital with broken bottles between their legs, with their wrist full of blood, little girls raped, little boys raped with their butt that needs stitches, that will never, 6-year-old boys that will never recover. Those are victims of violence, not someone who took an interview in a hotel room. You are an idiot.
For not knowing that it's a setup.
I mean...
Or for pretending to yourself in retrospect that a part of you wasn't aware that the possibility was there. Because, in retrospect, of course, everybody has 20/20. That's the cliche. So you can go back and reevaluate your choice. But at the moment, you were aware that there was a danger and you made a choice to take the chance to, a calculated risk to go because it looked like the rewards were greater than the risks. That's how you ended up in that hotel room. And then if you didn't leave when you saw something unexpected happen, but you stayed, there was another choice. And you made that choice because, again, you thought that the eventual reward would be greater than the hurt of the moment. So then what happens is that a year later or 3 years later, you reconsider that choice and you change your mind. And that's legitimate. I mean, we get to regret. We get to change our, evaluation of our choices. But that doesn't mean that we get to go out there and punish or demand some sort of retribution from a guy 3 years later or 30 years later or 20 years later when none of the conditions are the same.
That's exactly my point. You're responsible for your own choices. These women make other people responsible for what happened to them. So, if I get smacked against a wall in a freaking alley and raped because it's 3 a.m. and I walk home alone, I am an idiot, If you go to your room, to the room of some guy, because the big movie producer, to take a meeting at 2 a.m. in his bedroom, you are an idiot. But not him. I mean, he is a
Well,
He's
he's
a
a
lot of
pig.
things. I mean, he shouldn't take advantage of that. But if you let him take advantage of that, why not? Right? If you don't go to the room, nothing happens to you.
Well, that's the classic narcissistic, personality disorder thing, that the narcissist, which most of these guys in power have at least narcissistic traits or they're complete narcissists, their high is not so much the sex with you, it's actually overcoming your resistance. It's feeling that they are so charismatic or socially powerful that they can turn your potential no into a yes. So they will take advantage of it because it turns them on to see you kind of go with it because they're so either charming or powerful. That's what turns them on. It's not even like who you are and having sex with you.
Exactly.
It's the conquest.
Exactly. So you are a faceless girl.
You're a number.
You're a faceless
like a
girl.
cipher.
You could be anybody. If it's not you, it's someone else. Okay? It's not his fault. It's your fault. I think, I'm sorry, if I fall asleep at a party full of dudes and I wake up and there is anyone there, I'm prey. Because it happens, I read it somewhere that, I was drunk and I fell asleep and then I was there and this guy tried to kiss me. You're prey. Hold yourself better. Behave better. Don't put yourself in those situations.
Yeah, we must always be conscious. That's it.
But if I had a daughter, I'd teach her that. I won't teach her, hey, go to 2 a.m. If he asks you up at 2 a.m., go. Because if he put hands on you, then you can sue him. No. I tell her, if you go ahead, see what happens, see it on your own, and you're an idiot because it's going to put a hand between your legs. You get drunk. Good luck. Because if you pass out, you're going to find a guy straddling. They're dudes. That's what dudes do. They have been doing it since the beginning of time. This is just what they do. They want to get laid. That's it. Can't blame them.
I mean, I do blame them in the sense of I would like to. This is part of what I'm doing here. Is I would like to educate both men and women. I do think that men can only gain, like have better sex, have better relationships, have better experiences if they don't feel that they have to like take advantage of any situation. If they feel that they can have healthier sexual experiences. So I do think that the man, like your son, should also be taught that this is not like a grab what you can world. So it's good to have consequence, but not consequence like 5 years later. If you grab a girl and she's unconscious and she wakes up and she says, "Oh my God, this guy," she has a right to speak up and say, because she did not give consent. She should be, the guy has to wait for her to be alert enough to give a yes or a no. The boys have to learn to control that kind of like, animal urge. But at the same time, the girls should not put themselves in a place where they're no longer conscious and no longer can give conscious consent. So I feel that both genders have to be re-educated so they don't find themselves in these horrible situations that are so easily avoided.
But you think men don't know?
I mean, I don't even think, if I was a guy, it wouldn't be attractive to me to be humping an unconscious person, no matter what they look like.
But they're little animals, like a 19-year-old boy does not think with his head. Okay? 40-year-old man, 50, however, doesn't ask a girl, come to my room. He asks 10, 20, 50, 100. If one says yes, I'm going to try. Of course. Is the one that says yes.
Right.
That's, why did you say yes, genius? It's not her. He wasn't trying to seduce her. He was trying to get laid somehow, however he could, because that's all they want to do. So they know that sex is better when there is a connection. They know that sex is better however they like it. They know sex is better
when
if
you're
they
wanted,
don't
when you're desired, when whoever you're with wants you. No, I think that for men too, the sex is much better if they feel that they themselves are desired. Not that, there is like a a female body whose spirit is no longer present, that's not so arousing. It can't be. I mean, this is not like a game of numbers. I understand how when you're 19, you don't have a clear sense of consequence. So maybe, you feel overtaken by the moment and you don't understand that you'll have to pay for it the day after because you're 19. You don't understand that things have consequences. I can see that. But I feel that in general, for both men and women, sex is immeasurably better if you feel wanted for you.
Definitely. But if you don't have that, you still want to have sex every night if you're a guy, or multiple times a day, even if you're a man. I really believe that. I really believe that they have a sexual energy that's different than the sexual energy of a woman.
Well, you mean the testosterone?
Yeah. So, however they can, if they don't have a woman at the moment, they're going to try to get one for the night. That's my opinion. If you're there to pick up their call, it's your fault. Because if it's not you, it's someone else. Like, they will continue to try. You give in to that try that they put on you, it's their fault. Ignore them. Send them away. Punch them. They talk to you funny,
Well, my hope is that both can be retrained to actually be more conscious in their sexual moves and the sexual initiatives and not just go about it, blindly and haphazardly and see what they can catch, which is just sad.
I know. I mean, I'm also for quality over quantity, but it's not always the case. It's not always the case, especially you and I, we're 40. We've seen it. We've gone out. I mean, guys are all the same. They want to get laid. They want to get laid. I mean, it's easy. Like, it's not so difficult. They go through the dinner because they want to get laid. They take you to the movies because they want to get laid. They marry you because they want to get laid every night. It's not like, that's it. They make money because they want to get laid.
I know.
They get a car because they want to get laid. They get a pair of sneakers because they want to get laid. So if he calls you in his room at 2 a.m. it's because they want to get laid.
Well, we have to explain to them, teach them, if they haven't figured it out, the difference between quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. It's so important.
They won't do it. They haven't done it since the beginning of life, so they won't start.
I think they can do it. I think they can do it. I mean, like, I was at Soho Saturday, and I ran into this guy. He's at least 60. He's an extremely successful CEO of a huge entertainment conglomerate. His daughter went to an Ivy League school, super smart. She's like 30-something. He was there with a girl who was maybe 20, of another race. They never made eye contact. She never looked out away from her phone. There was below zero chemistry between the two. They had just met. He brought her to the event. It was that Questlove thing. And I am flabbergasted by the fact that of all the women that he could ask out, and there would be a lot of women who would answer his call because he's, an important, successful man. And not terrible looking. He chooses the one who cannot appreciate him. She cannot even understand his intelligence, his experience, his conversation. There is nothing that they have in common. He thinks perhaps that she's like a trophy, but she's not. She wasn't even that, physically attractive. She had really only the youth. But there was no connection at all. So to me, I'm just gazing at it, trying to empathize with either side. I understand her a little bit more than I understand him. I don't understand him at all. I don't understand why he's not with a hot, divorced, slightly older woman who would be like mesmerized, and he would be looking like, he's overtaken by desire, instead of this completely transactional, cold, semi-sexual. I guess it was going to end in sex, of course. Foreplay, whatever experience that I was witnessing.
Maybe she was a hooker.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
And also, when you get to that point, first of all, you don't want someone.
You don't want the complication.
You don't want the complication.
Yeah, I know. You don't want demands. The whole thing we were saying about the romance. You don't.
Why
want
would you go there?
The guilt and the possessiveness, and why did you look that way, and all of that. Yeah. So if we women could separate the sexual experience from that other whole system of monogamy and everlasting faith, we might have better sex, and this thing of monetizing sex would be less common. That would be nice. Anyway, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Yeah, come back.
I will.
Okay.
I love you.
We love you too. Mwah. Speak sex.
Okay.